Guys, I'm gonna try to make this short and sweet. I had a good day today. That's the end of it, because I can go into the whole day and make a video out of that. But I'm sitting here in my barn thinking about, old times and stuff and good times. Mainly good times, not bad times. But I remember um, back in Arizona, we had, or I started off riding dirt bikes. All right. And I rode them up until I was about 38 years old. Out in the desert, and there's an area called Sycamore Creek out in Arizona that is, there's Swore Lake. If you go dead east, you run right straight into Sycamore Creek area. Now, they had Salt River that come down through there and went straight through Phoenix. And before it gets to Phoenix, for some reason it dries up. It doesn't make it all the way into Phoenix unless there's a good rain. But when you get out in the Sycamore Creek area and around Swore Lake and stuff, that river runs good, and it's a thing to go out there and tube the river. Well, I used to go out there and I did tube the river a few times. But I wasn't. I was into the off roading, so I'd go out there with my dirt bikes and ride around. And out there, I mean, there's a volcano out there in this area. I've got a picture of it when we were out there riding around. But before I ever I started on motorcycles and moved to trucks. But before I ever moved to trucks, which meant before I was 38, we'd be out there riding around people, and there's mesas out there. If you don't know what a mesa is, you need to look it up, because all I can tell you is it's or like a hill, mountain, or something that's just been flattened off at the top. But there's a lot of them out there in Arizona, and in this Sycamore Creek area, there was a lot of them out there, and valleys, different valleys going through. That you could be 1 minute down in the valley riding a dried up river, and we called them a wash, and or you could be up on the top and riding along the top of it, up above it. So you could be in the valley or up on a mesa or something. And we used to. I know I sat out there. We would be sitting up on a mesa when they would start bringing in these tests. They were training pilots from the Luke Air Force Base out in Phoenix. They'd bring them over there to Sycamore Creek because of the mesas and the valleys and everything. That would train them to fly through the valleys below the mesas. So we would be riding around. We hear they was coming in. We'd get up on top of the mesa, be sitting up on top of the mesa, and they come flying through the valley below us. And I'm telling you what, the only thing I ever saw were Black Hawk pilots being trained. But they said there was F-16 pilots, and even the guys that flew the Cobras were being trained out there as well. I never saw those. The only ones I ever saw, they were all flying in a Black Hawk helicopter. And we sat there for a little while, and what they'd do is they'd fly through this one valley below us and fly through it, and then they would fly back up and over to the beginning of it again, hover, swap pilots, and then have another pilot fly the same route. And we set up there. This was back before we all had cell phones, folks. We didn't have cameras and stuff with us because this was before that. I wish I'd have had them. I wish I'd have had the cell phone that I'm using right here back when I did a lot of stuff. It would have been, it would have been my proof of what I did. But we didn't have those. But I'm telling you this story because there was a guy He was like 19. This is when I decided to get off of a motorcycle, a dirt bike, and get into a truck. I'm at 38 years old. I'm running most of these guys I'm riding dirt bikes with on the weekend. They're from anywhere from about 17 to about 22. And I had two bikes. I had a RM 250 that was just all stock and everything, but it was my backup bike. It was the first one I bought when I got out there. My second bike was a CR 250 that I stripped all the way down the frame, powder coated the frame, had the motor, I had it ported, polished, board ported and polished, everything. I spent a bunch of money on the motor to make it fast. CR 250 two-stroke. This thing would scream. I'm riding with these younger guys, and one of the youngest ones, he was like 17. He had all the body armor on. I'm riding the same thing I would wear right now. This not the hat, but I wore a helmet out there. It was a different hat. But I'm riding. I didn't have no protection on, just riding my stuff. This kid, he's got it all. His parents or whoever bought him every safety equipment you needed, and a brand new 125 CR 125. Well, he wrecked his bike. We're out in the middle of the desert, no phones. We send one guy on a bike to go to find a phone, call in a ambulance, somebody. This guy, it was bad. When the ambulance people got there, they had to bring in off-road vehicles through the police department to even get an ambulance person back to this guy. Well, I wasn't involved on that part of it, but they were all trying to help this guy. By the time the ambulance people actually got back to the guy, they called in the helicopter. This guy's driving his motorcycle, racing along, and he's got all the protection on. And he hit something that threw him and the bike and the handlebar somehow. It almost took everything below his waist off, his hang low, you know what I'm talking about. This guy, 2 weeks later, week and a half later, he was back out there on his bike and riding it again in the same clothes. I was like, no way. I sold my bikes, the trailer. No, I didn't sell the trailer. The trailer was my dad's, but I got rid of all of it and bought me a freaking Bronco. God loves you guys. When you get older, you don't heal as fast. And I still don't think that boy's really healed, but he was dumb. He was back on that bike. Week and a half, 2 weeks at the most, he was back. It scared me to death. I looked at him and said, "Who are you?" God loves you. I love you. Seek Jesus.